This is Venkatesh from DataTorrent, and I'll be presenting you today's topic, which is building your first Apache Apex application using DataTorrent. So let me go ahead and start presenting you the slides. So there are a couple of webinars before on the same topic, just building your first Apache Apex application done by our teammates, which provides the details of most of the topics that we are covering today, where it goes ahead and discusses about the main concepts of Apache Apex. It discusses a sorted word count application, which can be developed using Apache Apex, and 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 the prerequisites and how do you build Apex Core and Apex Malhar as well, along with the example that we are building now. So now, in the current webinar that we are doing, we will be demoing how do we build the Apex Core and Apex Malhar, and how do we run an application using DataTorrent. So if you are interested in looking at how to run the application using Apache Apex alone and not using DataTorrent, you can go ahead and look at the videos done by our teammates before, which will be provided in the description when this YouTube video, when we upload the webinar onto YouTube as well. So coming to our webinar today. So the outline of the current session is we'll be discussing the main concepts of an Apache Apex application, and we'll provide a brief description of the example application that we are doing today. There'll be a hands-on demonstration of how do you clone and how do you build Apex source code, and this is needed because we are welcoming contributors for the Apache Apex, and it will be good to know this in case if you are interested in contributing anything to Apex back. So this is the place to do. And there will be a hands-on demonstration of how do you create a new application using Apache Apex, and we will run that application using DataTorrent in this current webinar, and a code walkthrough of how do you build, how did we go ahead and build an application. So coming to the main concepts, applications are the Apache Apex applications are built from operators. So the operators are the basic building blocks which implement the operator interface, which is available in Apex Core, and each operator has an input port and an output port, which will be connected by streams in between them. So it's like a block where there is an input port and output port. So the input port connects the current operator with its upstream, whereas the output port connects the current operator with its downstream blocks. So we will look at this more when we look at the example. This is just an outline. So a base operator class is also provided. It will be an empty implementation, but if you have to define an operator, it has to extend. It has to implement the base operator. So and every operator should have an input port and an output port typically, because an operator by itself doesn't. It doesn't know where to consume and output the data to unless it is connected with to the upstream and downstream. So the application class is where we define the DAG. So there is this populate DAG implementation that we have in this application, that we should be having in the application class, which will define the operators and how the operators are connected in the stream. And the application process data in time-based windows, which is, by default it is like 500 milliseconds, And this 500 milliseconds is only, I mean, this time-based windows is only for the bookkeeping activity, and it doesn't have to do anything with the stream that is coming in. So my point here is, as soon as the tuple is arrived, it doesn't wait for any micro batching to happen, or some sort of stuff like that. As soon as the tuple is arrived, it is consumed, and this 500 milliseconds is only for the bookkeeping activity for the application. Like if the operator state has to be checkpointed, or if the application state has to be checkpointed. So these types of bookkeeping activities will be done in this. Uh, Let me see if there are any. Okay. Yes. So there is the Docker available for Apache Apex. You can find the information at the Apache Apex website, Nelson. And Surichi, you can post your questions. I'm able to look at. I'm able to look at the questions and answer them. I'll continue the presentation. Okay. So in the sorted word count application that we are looking at right now, it has the following operators. So a line reader which consumes the data, I mean, which consumes the files from the input directories and outputs the lines, and outputs the consumed onto the output port of the line reader. So a line reader typically scans the input directory for any files that are available. So that's the basic processing functionality of line reader, and the output will be emitted on the output port, like discussed before. Following the line reader, there will be a word reader which consumes the lines that are emitted by the line reader, and splits each lines into words using a regex expression. And these regex expressions are configurable. We will see when we are looking at the application. And there will be the window word count operator, which will consume the outputs of window, I mean, which will consume the outputs of word reader, and it will be aggregating the word count on a window basis, and it will keep emitting the data at the end of every window. So typically an application window is like 500 milliseconds, and it will be emitting the words it has counted for every 500 milliseconds onto the downstream operator. So there is this file word count which need to accumulate all the output of window word count, because it keeps emitting the output on a window basis. So the file word count will accumulate the outputs of window word count for every 500 milliseconds, and emits the final sorted list when the line reader emits an end of file signal onto the file word count, saying like, okay, the file reading is completed, so you can emit the final sorted word count list that you have. So there is this word count writer, which is an output operator, which is a HDFS output operator, and it writes the list to an output file in the specified directory. So this is the application that we will be looking at today. I mean, the focus of this webinar will be on explaining, I mean, looking at the feedback from the previous presentations that we have done. There is a couple of feedbacks saying like, I mean, they wanted to have a code walkthrough of what each operator does. So the emphasis will be more on the code walkthrough in this webinar. So we'll be running the application also at the same time. So this is the DAG that we'll be building for this application, which encompasses a line reader, followed by a word reader, followed by a window word count operator, and then a file word count and a WC writer. and there is this control signal which is coming from the line reader onto the file word count, uh, which indicates saying that a file read is complete. So for if you have multiple files, there will be multiple control signals saying like particular file X has completed reading. So you can aggregate the words for words in that file and emit the data onto the WC writer. Okay, so these are the resources that are available. You can go through them to look at different resources that are available for Apache Apex. So this basically completes what I wanted to present. So let's get on to the hands-on part, where we'll be looking at how do we where do we clone the Apex core, Apex Malhar, and how do we build a sample application using. Okay, so there is this question from Jayaprakash which says, can you tell Apex came into existence to replace something? So Apex is a true stream processing engine, which is developed by the team at DataTorrent. So what effectively Apex does is, so when you are looking at humongous amounts of data coming in into your system real time, and uh, and you need to process them. Say you need, and there is this requirements of high frequency of ingestion on this humongous amounts of data. And the process of ingestion may encompass stages like filtering, enriching, transforming, and some heavy compute operations that you will be doing, and you have to do that in real time. So these are the use cases where Apex fits in, as there is no technology that does that before Apex. So the typical use cases encompass like fraud detection, where there is a requirement of processing gigabytes of data, terabytes of data, and there is this milliseconds latency that can be accepted. So these are the typical applications that Apex comes into picture. And yeah, and it's not just that. There are many use cases of Apex. Apex is a true real-time engine which can be used for batch processing use cases as well. Okay. So okay. So first, in the current webinar, uh, we'll be we'll be looking at how do we build an Apex core repo. So if you look at the Apex core Git, there are multiple components that an Apex core encompasses, and and there is a different presentation explaining the Apex core details. So we'll not be going into those details now because it itself is a huge topic to discuss. So let us clone the repo for now. So here, core. Okay, so let's look at my current webinar. There's nothing else here. So I'll clone Apex core onto this directory. So typically this will be downloading all the components that are needed to install Apex Core. So this is currently downloading the updates. We'll wait for the it to clone. Okay, so before going into how do we build, let me give you a quick update on what is needed and what are the prerequisites. The prerequisites is you need to have Java in your system running, and not just Java. You need to have JDK as well to build and run some of the applications. And like we have already seen, we need to have Git in your system to clone the repositories that we have just pointed out, and you need to have maven to build the applications and see about that. So I mean, these are the only prerequisites that are needed to build your Apache Apex. So let's get into the Apex core. So it has all the components that are needed to build the Apex core, and the way to install the Apex core onto the M2 repo. It will, so running the following command maven clean install would install the Apex core components onto the M2 directory in the machine that you are running in. So I will skip the tests for now because it will take a lot of time to run the test cases here. So clean would basically clean if there are any Apex core components already installed of the current version that we have pointed. So this would typically take some time. We will not be, I mean, our focus is just to see how to run this. Since I already have them in my system, I'll go ahead with the Apex application building even if there is some kind of failure here. So this will typically download all the dependencies that are needed if they are not available. But again, it will check if the dependencies already exist and then download if they do not exist. Since I already have them, it should not take long for it to download for it to build this. Okay, so this is the Apex core installation, and there is a different component to Apex which is called Apex Malhar, where Apex core is the platform itself, and Apex Malhar encompasses all the input and output connectors, the utility operators that you can be using, and the utility functions that you might be needing. So these kinds of components are all encompassed in Apex Malhar. So this is more like a connector library, if you may say it that way. So we'll start owning Apex Malhar as well. Apex Malhar has more dependencies and source code than Apex core, so it might take more time to clone and to build Malhar as well. So we will wait for the clone to be complete first, and then go ahead and build this. So as this is building, we might we may take a look at how do we build a sample application, and if possible start walking through the code as well. And once the walkthrough is complete, I'll run the application and show a demo for you using DataTorrent as to how do that. Let me see if there are any questions. Okay. So the question is, what is Apex Malhar? So Apex Malhar, like I've explained just now, it's more like a component library where there are ready-made operators available for you. Say uh, for suppose if your requirement is to read the data from Kafka or read the data from a HDFS configured directory, there are ready-made operators available in Malhar for you to do that. There are operators available for you to write on. I mean, there are input operators, output operators. The input operators typically include Kafka input operator, HDFS, reading from FTP ports, uh, reading from Oracle. All the JDBC connectors are available for you. Let us look at what's there in Malhar. I mean, there are output connectors available for you. So Apex Core is the platform and processing engine, whereas Apex Malhar is the library where you can readily use some certified operators which are already in use in production. So you don't have to redo. I mean, you don't have to redevelop the same thing which is already available in Malhar. So this is library. So Malhar, along with the library, has apps, example apps. There are examples. There are different connectors which are available. You can go through them and look at them as well. Just show. Okay. Uh, my internet connection is slow, so let me import directly and show you what's there in Malhar. I already have Malhar here. Okay, since it is downloading, the connection went slow. So in the Malhar, so in the Malhar, you see there are different packages available for you. So there are converters, ready-made converters available for you. There are ready-made IO operators available. There are metric operators available, parser operators available. There are different partitioners available. Different statistics. I mean, operators that can be used to measure different statistics are available. And the typical IO operators are FTP input operator. There is this HTTP operators, PubSub connections. There are Cassandra output operators. There are HBase output operators. There are Hive input and output operators. So there are multiple operators available in Apex Malhar, which are production grade. So you can scan through them and see what fits your requirement well and readily use them in your application building. Okay. So now, so the cloning. So we have cloned the Malhar as well. Uh, So this malhar is a huge repo. So I'll try to ignore the check style, the style check as well on this. It will take a long time for us to complete. So it will be, so the malhar will be building us all these libraries for us and installing them in the M2 repository. So we don't need all of them. We just need the malhar library to be built for us to proceed with the example. So like I've said, this would take longer time than the Apex core, so we'll wait for this to be completed. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. I'll be answering. So how to run the .java file? So I'll be showing that. I'll be building an application for you, and I'll be showing you how to run a typical Apache Apex application using DataTorrent in the current webinar. So I'll be covering that up in the next 30 minutes, Suriji. So it is downloading dependencies. So while this is happening, let's look at different operators that are available. There is contrib parser. You see there are different connectors available. There are Avro read and write operators. There is this Cassandra absurd write operators, Couchbase, CouchDB, Elasticsearch, Enrich, Formatter, Geodes, HBase, Jython, Kafka, Kinesis, Memcache, MySQL, MongoDB. So these are ready-made. These are the operators that are contributed to Malhar already and are used in one or other production instances. So this reduces the development time. It's just a matter of configuring these operators with your properties. Let's say if there is a HDFS input operator that you are looking at, which scans for a particular directory and reads the files in that directory, then it's just a matter of configuring the input directory that it has to read in this current implementations that we are having here. So it's very quick and very easy with Malhar. I'll show you how to use the Malhar operators as well in your application. So let's, in the meantime, let's start looking at the example repo. So in the Apex Malhar, we have these examples where where you can see different example applications using different operators. So the CSV formatter example package uses a formatter operator which splits the data based on some CSV strings and emits the data. So these are like different applications which explain how to use the corresponding operators, and there could be some example applications for specific use cases as well. So you can, if you have time, you can go through these applications as well. So so the example that we will be looking at will be the modified version of this vote count, which is available in the Apex Malhar. So okay, I think it ran out of memory while it is building the Apex Malhar. Anyways, the library is built, so we'll proceed with the example application for now. Okay. Uh, so so we have a maven archetype generator which creates the project structure, and then it's more like creating the infra that is needed to develop your Apex application. So if you can run this command, uh, it will create you the project structure that is needed for you to start developing your application. So I'll pick this command, and so I'll pick this command and I'll run to these examples, and I'll be running this. So what this command does is it generates an Apache Apex archetype with 3.4.0 version. You can update the version accordingly if you need a different version. You can give it the package name that you need and the application name that you want for your applications. So once we run this, it will create you the project structure that is needed uh, to run the Apex application. So let's run this command. So this is generating a project for us right now. Apex version 3.4.0s. So build success. So it has created this webinar demo project. So it has created us this webinar demo project with a POM file and the source files and some sample source files. We will look at what the sample source files consists of. It has the main Java resources example webinar demo, and it has two simple. It has a simple application.java file, and it has this random number generator example, which will be used in this application.java. So this is a simple example that you can run. So if you look at the application class, it's a sample tag with two operators. Replace this code with the tag that you want to build. So there is this random number generator which generates 500 tuples per window, and there is this console operator which reads those tuples and writes and writes in the console. And there's this stream which is connected from the random number generator into the console output operator, so that the output of random number generator is fed onto the console's input. So this is how we create this structure that is needed for the Apex application. So this example is pretty simple. So let's look at a different use case where we count the words that are available in a file. So in the example, so I've cloned the examples repo that is available in Malhar, and there's this top and words. There's this top and words directory which is which is our current example that we are looking at, and it has the same project structure like we have seen before, except for the target, which is created because I've run a maven clean install on this before. So let us do a code walkthrough of this application, and then go ahead and run, and then I'll go ahead and show you how to run this application, how to build this application and run using DataTorrent. Let me see this. Okay. So the question is, I joined late, not sure if somebody has asked this question. What are some use cases where Apache Apex is the right fit? Uh, yes, yes, Nash. We have already discussed the use cases for Apache Apex. So Apache Apex is a true real-time platform uh, where if you have stringent latency requirements like in milliseconds, or if you have, I mean, it's a real-time processing engine, unlike other systems that are available. So the typical use cases include fraud detection or customer 360 processing, and Apache Apex has been used in batch applications as well, since it is able to deal with batch in a better way, in a controlled way. Uh, so these are the typical use cases for Apache Apex. Yes, Balaji, is Apache Apex a open source product? Yes, Apache Apex is an open source project. Along with Apache Apex, Apache Malhar is also an open source project. Uh, So in the slides that I've shown before, there is a documentation page for Apache Apex where you can get all the things that we have discussed about Apache Apex as well. Would you be able to share the webinar when you are done? Yes. So there is this recording that is going on, and the recording will be uploaded onto YouTube channel, and the people who have subscribed will be notified of the upload as well. Uh, can you give us a real example of using Apex with MongoDB, for example? Okay, so the example would be, there is this real-time data. Uh, there's this real-time data, batch data that you are looking at coming into your system, and you need to do some kind of processing on 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 the incoming stream. Say like you have to ingest the data at high frequency. Say you have to filter, transform, enrich, aggregate, do write the data onto HDFS for some uh, dimensional compute that you want to do, and then write the data at the same time onto MongoDB to do some more processing. I mean, it's not like DataTorrent is coupled with MongoDB. If you want to use MongoDB uh, to store the ingested output that is coming in after enriching the ingested enriching the incoming data, so that is where uh, Apache Apex comes into picture. It's like a processing engine. If you want to store transformed, sliced, and diced data onto MongoDB, so your upstream to MongoDB will be Apache Apex. Uh, which are the core packages to be cloned? Is there a specific order? Any prerequisites before cloning them? Uh, the core packages that need to be uh, cloned are just the is just the repo that I've shown you, Apex core, which is available in GitHub, and it is open sourced as well. And you just have to clone. I mean, you just have to maven clean install the package, and there is no. I mean, the order is already there, so you need not worry about that. Any prerequisites before cloning them? Yes, like I've mentioned, Java, I mean, JDK installed, Git, and Maven. Okay, sorry. So the YouTube channel is under DataTorrent. So you can search for the YouTube channel DataTorrent and you will be able to see. And the YouTube link will be uploaded. I mean, the YouTube link of the current application and the previous Apache Apex applications also. I mean, previous Apache Apex webinars also will be available in the same subscription channel. Yes, there will be a recording available. So I'll go ahead with the presentation right now. So okay, so we are looking at the app. So the app that I've cloned. So the app that I've cloned is available uh, under the app directory in this specified location. So I've imported the same onto my work editor. Uh, so this is the application. So this is the project. Uh, so my so like we have discussed before in the slides, there will be an application.java file, or it could be your custom application name, which implements the streaming application, and the the application file has to implement the populate DAG functionality, which defines the operators in the DAG and how those operators are connected as streams in the DAG. So so this is so so this will be the basic content of the application.java file. So let's look at what each operator does and how do we how do we connect these operators. So before doing that, let me build this. So maven clean install dskip test with, oh, we don't need an install, we just need a package, but anyways, it's fine. So this will be building the API file which is needed for us to upload onto the DataTorrent UI and then start running the application. So and the way to do that is, so I have a DataTorrent instance already running. I have this DataTorrent instance running in our cluster, so I'll be using the current installation that we already have. I'll be going through how do we install DataTorrent and what are the prerequisites for installing DataTorrent. So this documentation is available in datatorrent.com website, or there is a YouTube video also available to go through these steps. But the prerequisites are you need to have HDFS and yarn running in your cluster, and once you have that, it's just a single command that gets you DataTorrent installed and running, and this wonderful web UI available for you to upload and do the stuff that you want. So I'll be developing my application now. So I click on develop. It will be redirecting me to this application packages. So I'll start uploading the API file that I've built in my local system. So when I click on choose file, it asks me to point to the directory where the package API file is built. So I point that, I can choose upload, upload and replace, upload and merge if existing. So I choose upload and replace. So this uploads the API file onto the instance where DT is running. So this takes care of that. So the internet is very bursty today, so it was slow at times. Well, this is uploading. Let me see. Prerequisites. So I'll be typing the prerequisites. JDK. Name of the YouTube channel will be DataTorrent. Yeah. Okay, so our application is uploaded. We have seen a notification saying top and word count is uploaded. So yeah, so this is the top and words application that we have built and uploaded onto DataTorrent. So before going ahead and launching this application, let's look at what this application has. So like we have shown in the presentation slides before, it has a line reader, word count, file word count, and WC writer. Right. So typically this is how the DAG is connected. So let's look at what the line reader does. So the line reader extends the abstract file input operator, which has this basic implementation of a file input operator, and the additional functionality that this line reader has implemented is emitting a control signal once the file read is complete with the same file name. Let's say if the input file name is test, the output file name will also be test along with the word counts, along with the top 10 word counts, along with the top 10 word counts that are there in the input file. So this basically reads the needs the path, and it has two input ports which emits the data and which emits the control signal in the other port. And the typical operator lifecycle is it calls this setup method when the operator is initialized first, followed by that begin window, followed by that process tuple multiple times. I mean, it depends. It depends on how your data is flowing in. Followed by end window, and once the operator, I mean, once we shut down the application, it will call the it will shut down the operator as well. So the typical, I mean, the process functionality is encompassed in this abstract file input operator, which is from Malhar. So this abstract file input operator is a library from Malhar, and so it implements the input operator, which emits the emitables functionality. So let's do that. process. Okay, so it is taking the so the sequence of the calls is already defined in the abstract implementation. So it opens the file, it keeps scanning for the file directory, and it looks at the uh, files that are put into the input directory, and it picks the file once it is available there, and it scans. So basically it has to open the file, open the stream on the file, and then start scanning the lines in the file. So and once the scan is complete, it closes the file and sends a control signal, and emits a control signal which emits the file name saying like this file read is complete. So that is all this line reader does. You can look at the implementation. Since we are running out of time, I will go on to the next. So the word reader extends the base operator, and what a word reader needs to do is the line reader emits the lines, and the word reader has to split the lines based on the regex pattern that we have set, and emit the words onto the downstream. So this has an output port and an input port. On the output port, it emits strings. On the input port, if you look at the input port implementation, there is this process function which gets called, and and in the process function, it splits the line based on this pattern that we have here, and this pattern is configurable, and the default pattern is it looks for any spaces or punctuations, and it identifies that. It just identifies if it finds a punctuation or space while it is scanning through the file. It splits the word, it splits the line based on these characters, and emits the words after that. So that is a word reader, and word reader is connected to a window word count. So the window word count basically aggregates the data and emits the data at the end of every window. So if you look at the process functionality, it keeps collecting the pairs and increments the count for that word, and saves that in a map. And at the end of every window, it keeps emitting this map and clears once it emits the map. And file word count. So the file word count, what it typically does is it reads the data from the window. It keeps collecting the aggregates from the window word count, and once it receives a control signal from the line reader saying like the input file read is done, then it identifies. It recognizes saying like, okay, the file read is complete, so I have to aggregate. The current aggregate that I have for the words on this file is all that I'm going to have, and it writes the data onto HDFS directory. So this is our typical word count application that we'll be looking at. So we'll go ahead and launch this application. So this is the way we launch an application using DataTorrent. In the previous webinars that we have discussed the ways to launch an application using Apache Apex console. So if you're interested in looking at, you can look at those videos as well, which are available in our channel, and the comments of this current video when we upload onto the YouTube channel will have those references as well. So so this is the application, real so this is the application which is running right now, and you will be able to see the real-time stats of the application when it is running. So a quick overview of what this is. This is the UI where you can submit, monitor, develop apps. So there are different views: logical, physical diag view, metric view, which will help you uh, in in getting your app to production faster, and debug your applications faster as well. So there is this physical view where you get to see physical instances of every operator which is running. You can go to the container, get the logs from the UI itself. Uh, you can find the stack traces. You can see the GC logs. You can look at different views as well. Physical diag view where it shows the if there are, this is a simple application, so each operator has a single partition. So if there are multiple partitions, so each physical partition will be represented here. So you can look at different settings here. So let's look at what we have configured. So in the current application, there is this properties.xml where we have configured different settings for the operators. Uh, for the line reader, we have configured the input directory to be tmp test input directory. So the current setting is, so the dt.application is prefix which is generic for all the applications, and top and words is the application name that I have defined in my word count application.java that I have created before. You see the annotation here as top and words, and the same application name will be used here. So dt.application.application name, operator.operator name, and the property of that operator is what is configured here. So you can give a wildcard as well, or you can just say dt.application.property name, dt.attribute.property name, where it is more like a wildcard at any operator. So the line reader scans for this HDFS directory and reads. So let's look at what's there in that directory. So this is my HDFS, Hadoop, FS, FS. So there is this test file. So it has some content. So my word count operator, so my line reader here would scan in that directory. It will find the test file. So it will pick the file and it will start reading the lines in the file. There are like 2 lines. This is one, and this is all a single line. So there are 2 lines which it will be reading. So if you look at this, it has emitted, so it has read the test file and it has emitted 3 tuples. Line reader has read 2 tuples because it has 2 lines, and the third that it has emitted is the control signal saying like it has completed reading test file. So it has read the 2 tuples, the word reader has read the 2 tuples, and if you look at the properties of the word reader, the regex pattern is punctuation or a space. So these 2 will be considered as the split patterns. So it has found 364 words and it has emitted them onto the window word count operator. The window word count operator will emit a map with the words and the count of those words. If you look at the window word count, if you look at the file word count, how many top n needs to be emitted. So it has to be of size 10. So the top 10 would be emitted. If you look at the operator name, it is file word count. See, the file word count. So it will get this aggregated data from this window word count for every window. So since this is a small file, it has completed very fast and it has emitted all the data in a single window. So yeah, so the file word count, the window word count has emitted a single signal, and this has received that signal along with the control signal from this, and it has emitted onto the WC writer. So the WC writer is the word count writer. It's a HDFS output operator, and the configured location for the file writing is temp test output directory. So so I think previous run is also here. Okay. So as expected, THED is the has the highest word count. It has counted 25 occurrences of A, followed by off and IMMYA. So these are the top 10 words in this current test file that we have. So this basically covers all I wanted to present today. Let me look. Okay, so in addition to just the configurations, you can configure the application memory that you want. The operator memory that you want, the app master memory that you want. So this is a sample example. This is an example. So typically it will be in the order of MBs. So typical production operator instances will be in the order of 512 MB or so. So if you are planning on running the application on a sandbox as shown in one of our webinars before, you might need to configure the application memory to a lower value. The operator memory to a lower value, and the way to configure that is also explained in that webinar, which I'll be posting in the comments. Yes, so this basically covers everything that I wanted to present. Let me look if there are any questions. Is the word count set? The question is the word count set? Yes, the word count. So the application basically it reads the file and emits the word, and emits the words onto the downstream, and we have set the operator saying like emit me only the top 10 words in the file. How does the file reader sync between control and word count, Kunal? Okay, so if you look at the line reader, so if you are looking at the line reader, there's this read entity call which is happening, which continuously scans for the lines, which continuously scans the input stream for if there is a line that is available to read. So if there is an available line to read, it returns the line. If there is no available line to read, it means the file read is complete, and then it comes here and checks if the control port is connected. If it is connected, it gets the file name and emits the file name onto the output port saying like that this particular file read is complete. That is how it works. Okay, I'll be available online. Sorry. How different is Apex from Spark and Storm? So basically this is the next generation stream platform compared to Storm. There are fault tolerant guarantees that Apex gives by default saying like if there's a particular operator failure, then Apex guarantees the recovery of that particular operator along with the downstream operators, and it guarantees exactly one semantics on those inputs as well. And Apex is more scalable uh, since there are architectural differences between Storm and Apex. Apex eliminates all the bottlenecks that it has to acknowledge all the tuples from each operator to operator level. Uh, Apex just does that at the end of every checkpoint checkpointed window setting that is there, right? Whereas at Storm there is this overhead of acknowledging every tuple back and forth, and the architecture itself is complicated compared to Apex. How is it different from Apache Spark? Apache Spark doesn't really do real-time requirement. Doesn't really do real-time processing. It's a micro-batch oriented architecture. So it works with sample files if you are looking at it. But if you are really looking at real-time requirements at a production level data, then Apache Spark doesn't really. I mean, uh, Apache Apex uh, Apache Apache Spark is a micro batch oriented architecture. So you have to do it in window based. You have to do it in a micro batch based approach. Whereas with Apache Apex, you don't have to segregate it into batches. As the data is coming in, it keeps processing the data. Okay, so question from Kunal. How will the so the session is complete. Unless you have any questions, feel free to drop off. Okay, I'll be answering the questions if you have any. How will the file word count know that upon receiving control, do the upstream operators have also completed word count of the last line read? How will the word count know that upon receiving control from line reader do the upstream okay. Okay, so if you look at the file word count, it keeps listening for the control signal. Let me okay. So if you look at the implementation here, it keeps listening on the input port for the control signal, saying if it has received. Once it is received, it emits the end of file. It populates the end of file control value here with updates the boolean value as true, and once this value is true, if end of file is true, then it clears and emits the result. And it populates the file name with the final list value, aggregated word count value for that file, and it emits the data onto the output writer. If the end of file is not received, then it has to wait. How to decide where to use Apex and Storm? Uh, so Apex is an advanced stream processing engine. So if there are requirements of processing real-time data uh, in a fault-tolerant, exactly once semantic way, and at the same time highly scalable in a highly scalable way, then Apex is the way to go. So, Balaji, if you are interested more in knowing uh, how Apex is better than Storm, uh, you can you can. There is documentation available in DataTorrent.com. There are some blogs published on the same where we have also published the benchmarks of Apache Apex Storm, Apache Apex compared with Storm and other processing engines as well. You can go through them as well. Okay, what if UIF control is received but word count is still processing and has not given the result? Say the last few words from the line said. So this is a very good question. So that guarantee is available in the Apex platform. Uh, let's say if your current file word count is at window, let's say your current word count is at window ID 1561 1963, then the platform itself guarantees that the upstream operators have completely processed these windows. So it's like a flow model, right? So if unless your upstream completes the current window, your downstream will not be processing that window. So even if let's say the EOF has received in 2000 window, it means uh, the line reader has emitted all the words before window 2000 and it has emitted EOF at window 2000. So the word reader word count and the file word count has to complete 2000 windows before it receives this 2000 window. Even if this has emitted before, this will only receive it when this particular operator has reached window 2000. So it guarantees uh, it guarantees that it receives that data only in that particular window interval. So that way we can, I mean, the platform assures you and guarantees you that all your words are available here before the word count is available here. I hope that answers your question, Kunal. Okay, so if there are any more questions, please feel free to write. Uh, there is a forum users at Apex. Uh, if you have any questions on how to use any of the operators or how or if you are building an application and if you are stuck with something, you can write to that forum and you can expect replies. And if you are interested in contributing to Apex, please subscribe to Dev at Apex as well. How do you integrate select, search, sort, parse, and other commands into live stream of this process? It's simple, and it's so the question is from AIM: how do you integrate select, search, sort into this process? So if you look at the word count application, so there are operators available in Malhar which reads the stream, which filters the stream, searches and sorts. There are different operators available in Malhar for that. So you can add those operators into your application code here and make sure they are connected to streams in the right way. Say your parser, your line reader has to be connected to a parser followed by a filter followed by a sort operator. So your stream has to be connected in the same way and build your application. If the operators in Malhar doesn't fit your requirements, it's very simple to create your custom operator. Let's say a WC pair, not a WC pair. Let's say this is a simple operator, a word count. So your custom filter should extend the base operator, and if there are any settings that you have, if there are any configuration properties that you need to set, just define those properties here and write getter setters for those properties and define an input port and output port for your operator. And in the input port, you override the process functionality with the function that you want to accomplish. It is as simple as that, to create a custom operator and add that custom operator into your DAG like this, add operator, and connect those streams here. I hope that answers your questions. Okay, Suriji, you can write your questions onto the dev forum, onto the users forum. So if you are planning on building an Apex application, and if you are stuck with creating an Apex application, you can email us at users at Apex. I'll show. Sorry, my connection is a bit slow right now. So there is this community Apex. Apex.org. So if you look at the mailing list here, you can see this users group. If you are interested in building applications and if you have any queries, you can write to this forum here, and people will be happy to help. Okay, so thank you for attending this session. I should be closing the session right now. So happy apexing, and if you have, we will be uploading the YouTube video soon.